one of the late Eddie and Doris Robinson's grandchildren. And so on behalf of our family, we welcome you here today to continue the 100th birthday commemoration of Eddie Robinson. First, I want to take a minute to acknowledge all of our neighbors that were affected by the recent tornado in the Ruston area. I know some of you are here today. We hope that today's event brings you a little bit of joy and that you continue to receive the support that you need to rebuild. Thanks seems so inadequate in response to the overwhelming support in commemorating Eddie Robinson's 100th birthday. In keeping with my grandfather's practice of acknowledging my grandmother, Doris Robinson, just last Thursday, May 2nd, we marked what would have been her 100th birthday. We have been blessed to enjoy some of football's greatest names this year throughout the events we've held, including James Shaq Harris, Bill Curry, and our own Broderick Fobbs in Atlanta at the College Football Hall of Fame. Then Ohio State's Urban Meyer here just last month. And we reached out to Coach Saban to appear in Atlanta, but due to his schedule, we were unable to make that possible. But just as I mentioned, I believe to you last month and again in Atlanta, anytime we've asked someone to do something for this event, the response has been pretty much anything for Coach Rob. So when we found out Coach Saban wouldn't be able to be with us in Atlanta, his response was, is there another option? What else can I do? Yeah, we'll figure it out. So we worked with his assistant Linda, who has been a godsend for us in planning and came up with this date, and so that's what brings us all here today. Yes. Okay, that's better. I know by the time that we round out this year of celebrations, Coach Fobbs will probably block my number. He's been so open to whatever I've asked of him, and I'm happy that today you will all get to experience this coach-to-coach conversation. And if time allows, we will take a few questions from the audience at the end. We won't have time for autographs unless Coach Saban says so, but feel free to get in all of the photos that you can, go live on Facebook or Instagram. And if you're on social media, use the hashtag EddieRobinson100 so that we can share your photos and videos. So you can imagine what Coach Saban's bio looks like. I mean, I'm scrolling and scrolling and scrolling through the document. It's almost unfathomable the accomplishments he's seen over his 36 plus years in the profession. So there's no way I'll attempt to address them all. But what stood out for me as I studied it was that it includes the accomplishments of his players. It's not just a Coach Saban bio. So from a Heisman Trophy winner to a Butkus Award winner to ESPN All-Americans and everything in between, his players are part of it. And it fits in with Coach's philosophy of out of yourself and into the team, a philosophy that reminds me of my grandfather. So ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Robinson family, Grambling State University, the surrounding communities, and football fans everywhere, I'm honored to welcome two-time Eddie Robinson Coach of the Year awardee and University of Alabama head coach, Nick Saban.
It's certainly an honor for me to be here. You know, it's a pleasure to be involved with Coach Robinson's 100th birthday. I think he had a pretty significant record as a coach, but I think people like Eddie Robinson and Bear Bryant probably did things that were so much more important to society in terms of the opportunities that they created. Probably the integration of the South, which is probably one of the greatest things that anyone could be involved in. The opportunities created through the years for so many folks, and I'm just so pleased and honored to be here as a part of Coach Robinson's 100th birthday.
All right, are we ready for the Q&A? I'm going to do my best Phil Donahue impression. Good afternoon, Coach Broderick Fobbs here at Grambling State University. We have a series of questions that we want to ask Coach Saban so he can better help suit us here. Coach, how did you get your start in the coaching profession?
Well, first of all, let me congratulate you on what a wonderful season you had last year. You know, I never wanted to be a coach. My dad was actually a coach, but he never went to college, so he started Pop Warner football in our area in West Virginia, which was just a series of coal mining towns. And he actually bought a school bus, and he would go pick up all the kids who wouldn't have had a chance to play because the only way we got around was to hitchhike, and you couldn't get in and out of the hollows to go to practice. So he would go pick everybody up, take them. First year we went 0-11, and then we won like 33 games in a row or something because none of these guys would have ever had an opportunity to play. So I always had it a little bit in me to do something in life that would help other people, but I never really wanted to be a coach. And Don James was my college coach. Won a national championship at the University of Washington. Called me in, and in those days, when you got called into the coach's office, it was like getting called into the principal's office. It was like we had just finished the season, and I'm saying, my goodness, what did I do? Why do I have to go see Coach James? And I played baseball in college as well, and I was honored to meet the baseball coach here, who's a legend as well. And he said, I want you to be a graduate assistant and coach in football. And I said, Coach, I don't want to go to graduate school, and I don't want to be a coach. So why would I do something like that? Terry and I were married at the time. We didn't have much. And so he said, she's got another year of school, so why don't we just do this for 1 year and see what happens. So the only reason that I became a coach was my wife had another year of college. I couldn't take a job anywhere, so I had to kind of hang around. And so I became a graduate assistant and absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved it. And the last conversation I had with my father before he passed away was to tell him that first season, and I was a graduate assistant coach in 1973, as I told him, I said, Dad, I finally really know what I want to do. I just love being a coach, and that was the second game of the season. I've gotten a lot more from this game, being a coach, than I've ever given to it. Because of the relationships that you develop, the impact that you have on young people, and to see them, do so well. I mean, to see Kyle Williams today. I mean, I remember Kyle Williams when he was in high school, and I was out here at Ruston High School watching him practice, right now in spring ball. And to see what he's grown into, the great career he had, and a very successful person. So that's what makes you proud as a coach, and I think when you're talking about somebody like Coach Robinson, the number one thing that all the great coaches have is when you meet their former players, and I had lots of opportunity, especially the 5 years I spent here in Louisiana as LSU's coach, to meet a lot of former players of Coach Robinson. I don't care if it was Woody Hayes when I coached at Ohio State. I don't care if it's Coach Bryant now at Alabama. When all the guys that played for them come back and talk and talk and talk about the lessons that they learned, the stories that they tell, and what a great impact these men had on their lives. And I think that's what makes the greatest coaches. Not what your record is, not how many games you won, although 400 wins is something fabulous. It's that. It's that you know that their leadership, the example that they set, they were somebody that somebody could emulate. They cared enough to help somebody else for their benefit. That kind of leadership, serving other people and having an impact on helping so many people have better opportunities for themselves and provide the leadership to help them take advantage of it. I think we have the greatest profession of all time, and Coach Robinson is one of the greatest of all time in doing it.
Next, what is your favorite?
You might notice I'm not really going to answer your question.
Well, I've seen your interviews before, so I know how this goes.
I will try to answer yours. I never answer yours.
What is your favorite memory of Coach Robinson?
Well, because when I was a young coach, and I can't tell you where, what clinic, and I think it was at the Coach of the Year clinic that we have every year as college coaches, and I was just starting out in coaching. You know, I may have been 25 or 27 years old. I can't remember the specific circumstances, but he spoke at one of these clinics that we have or whatever, and the impact that he made. There was a lot of things that when I grew up were valued by my family, but you know, he talked about humility and how important that was in being successful and being able to stay focused on the things that you needed to do to be successful and not being satisfied and treating other people the right way. And it was something that just, you know, sort of embodied so much class in the way he sort of spoke, carried himself. And I was just sitting out in the audience just like people are here today. And I always, you know, sometimes when you see people do that, you say, I'd like to be that way someday. You know, I'd like to be like that man. And that's my first and probably greatest impression, you know, that I have, lasting impression that I have of Coach Robinson, and it was probably, you know, 50 years ago.
Talk about the difference between you beginning your coaching career and now, the difference in the game.
You're talking about me personally, or you're talking about coaching in general?
Coaching in general.
You know, I think that back when a lot of us played, when I played, when the coach said do something, we did it. If he said run through the wall, we would do it. And I think that in this day and age, there has to be a reason. And it has to be a reason. It has to be a reason that's going to benefit that particular person, or they're not really necessarily interested in maybe committing to what you're asking them to do. And that's one of the things that, you know, I learned long ago, that you really do have to make it about them. You know, everybody says there's no I in team, but I always say there is an I in win, because it's about the individuals, the individual players. They have to buy into the team, and they can't put themselves before the team. But people are motivated to do the things that they do because of how it impacts them and how it impacts their future. So we're constantly trying to get our players and the people that we deal with now, and I never did this in the past, to set goals and find out what their vision and aspirations are personally, academically, and athletically, so that I can try to get them to edit their behavior so that they can accomplish those things, which is all about the individual. But yet it makes our team better and team stronger if those people have, you know, great competitive character, ability to communicate, have some leadership qualities. So it's an indirect way, I think, much more than it was in the past when people just did what you asked them to do. You know, we kind of have a generation now of people who, I know that I want it, so I should be able to get it now. And that's okay, as long as they understand that there is a process that you have to go through. It's great to have a vision, but everybody has to understand what does it take to accomplish that goal or aspiration. And you know, many of us confuse goals and outcomes. You know, they're not the same thing. You know, visions and goals are one thing. If I ask a receiver on our team, what's your goal? And he says, I want to catch 50 passes. I said, that's an outcome. That's not a goal. That's an outcome. So we're constantly trying to get our players to follow this, you know, process of things that you have to do to accomplish the goals that you have and the vision. And hopefully that vision comes from them. And then the third part of that is they have to have the discipline to execute it every day. And this is the hard part. I don't care if you want to climb Mount Everest, lose 10 pounds, graduate from college, be a successful, football player in college, whatever your goals and aspirations are, this is where you fail. I mean, if I want to lose 10 pounds, Slim Fast tells me everything I got to do every day. That's the process. What's the problem? Not eating ice cream in 3 days. That's the problem. All right, so what is discipline? People talk about doing what you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to do it, the way it's supposed to get done, do the right thing, the right way, the right time, all the time. But I'm talking about self-discipline. And everybody in this room probably already today has made a couple hundred of these decisions. Here's something I know I'm supposed to do that I really don't want to do. Can you make yourself do it? Over here, there's something you're not supposed to do, but you want to do it. Can you keep yourself from it? So if you can make those choices and decisions, I mean, when the alarm clock goes off, we make one. I don't feel like getting up today, but I know I'm supposed to go to class, I know I'm supposed to go to work, whatever it is. You're getting up or not. So if you can make these choices and decisions correctly, you'll always be able to stay on the path of the things that you need to do to accomplish the goals and the vision that you have. And it's a matter of feeling versus choice. I'm sure a lot of people in there have children. How many times you hear them say, I don't feel like studying. I don't feel like going to class today. I had two, went to Alabama. They both graduated, but I got that a bunch. I don't feel like studying. I don't feel like going to class today. And I would have to say, I don't care what you feel like doing. How about choosing to do the things you need to do to graduate? You say you want to graduate, then you choose to study. You choose to go to class. You don't do what you feel like doing. And we all have some circumstance that we could justify not doing the right thing. We're all expert at that. All right, so you don't want to focus on your circumstance. You want to focus on your vision. Now, one of the greatest things, Chuck Pagano, I don't know how many people in here, about 5 or 6 years ago when he was having his issues with cancer and had to sit out a whole season in the Indianapolis, he was the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, and they made the playoffs, and he went in the locker room and spoke. And there's only one thing that he said that I can remember what he said. And he said, I want to see my daughters grow up and I want to dance at their wedding. That's my vision. My circumstance is I have cancer. So that's a great example to me of exactly, what we're talking about. Stay focused on your vision, be positive about what you want to accomplish and what you want to do, and make a commitment to doing it at a high standard. So what was your question?
What is the biggest life lesson you can share?
Well, first of all, I guess life lessons would come early in life for me. And my first life lesson, most of you wouldn't be interested in, but I can still remember. I was in 8th grade. It was December. It was the middle of basketball season, and Miss Helminski was teaching music class, and I was in her class. And everybody, right before Christmas break, had to stand up in front of the class and sing. And I'm not a very good singer, and I was very shy at the time, so I refused to get up in front of the class and sing. And I got a D in music. All right, so when I got home, when that D arrived at home, I can remember to this day my mother folding up my basketball uniform in a nice little towel, and my dad taking me to school to turn my basketball uniform in because I got a D in music. And then we went to Adame Coal Mines, and we went 527 feet down the shaft, and the door opened, and I thought we were in hell. And we said, this is where you're going to end up if you don't get an education. So I only tell that story because it's really affected me personally in terms of the value of education, but it's also made me make every player that we've ever had make sure that they value what education can really do for their future. And I tell every player when we recruit them, the reason that you're coming to college is to prepare yourself for the day you can't play football. All right, so you're not coming here to play for 3 years and, get in the draft and go out early for the draft and all that, and that's a whole other topic of conversation. So that was probably one of the things that I remember that impacted me, because I didn't like school. I didn't want to go to school. I tell our players all the time, I know you don't like school, but you want to play football, you got to go to school. And that's going to value your future more the day you graduate, the day you develop a career off the field, because it's going to last forever. There's one thing all athletes have in common. Comes a day you can't play. All right, so what are you going to do then? And it was sad when I was in the NFL for 8 years, and we would have players, they were great guys, they had great families, they were good players, they had very successful careers, but to see what they went through when they couldn't play anymore, when they hadn't graduated from college, there wasn't some clear path of what they could do, and how many failings occurred because of that. It was really sad. So, I'm proud to say we have one of the highest graduation rates in the country, 84%. It would actually be 97 if you couldn't go out early for the draft, which nobody in the country has. So I'm really proud of the fact of the way our guys buy into getting an education, and it all comes from me not singing in music class.
Well, I can relate to that because my dad, who sits right over there, he took me to the juvenile detention center. So
that'll work. But my first coaching, if you want to talk about coaching lesson, and I also, this happened early too. I was 15-year-old quarterback, sophomore, Monongah High School, and we were like a Class A, AA school. And in my town, everybody went to the game. So the last guy turned the lights out. And everybody bet on the game. And I would have people standing behind the bench saying, you got to score again to cover. And I'm 15 years old. And I called the plays. And Earl Keener was our coach, and he had been 8-time Coach of the Year. And I called the plays as a 15-year-old guy. So we go to play Masontown Valley, which is up in the mountains, really in the boondocks, and these guys are tough, hard-nosed guys, and this is the last game of the season, and we have to win to get in the playoff. We're like 8-1 or whatever, and they're 9-0. So if you can imagine, there was a school, then there was a graveyard we had to walk through to get to the field, and the field wasn't very well lit, or any of that. So we get behind 18-0. So we walk through the graveyard at halftime. Coach Keener is just as cool and as calm and goes over what we got to do better, as if we're not even behind in the game. So we come back in the game and it's 18-12. We get the ball back with a minute 25. This is a true story. We're going down the field in 2 minutes, and we use our last timeout. It's 4th down and 12 on the 25-yard line. Now there's everybody in town there. They all had plenty to celebrate life with. Most of them been in a fight somewhere in this game, and everybody in town was there. And when we won, we got to go in the joint free and play the pinball machine, and when we lost, we were barred. All right, so I come jogging over to the sidelines, and Coach Keener says, he called me Young Mickey, he says, Young Mickey, what do you think here? And I said, I think you should call this play. That's what I think. We're going to win or lose the game on this play. And he said, you got a 3-time All-State split end. And Kerry Mulberry, who was a left halfback who played professional ball for a while, made All-American in West Virginia, is the left halfback. He said, I don't care what play you call. I just want to see one of those two guys get the ball. So I called 4th and 12, 26 crossfire pass. 2 back, 6 hole. That's how our numbering system was back then. Fake the carry, throw post corner to the guy, and we hit it and won the game. So when we're in the locker room after the game, and the reason I say this is because as I'm a coach, I never heard this for 20 years of coaching from the time that I heard it from him. And he came up to me after the game and he said, see, in critical times in a game, you don't think of plays, you think of players. All right, so I coached a lot of years before I coached for Belichick in 1991 to 1994 at the Cleveland Browns, and I was a defensive coordinator, and I heard him say that. That's the next time I heard that. And I started coaching in 1973, so I had coached for 20 years. And it's pretty common now, but it wasn't so common back then. And I still, to this day, we'll call a screen pass, and offensive coordinator, I'll say, who's catching this? And it'll be the slowest guy on the team, and I'm saying, how could you call that? And it all goes back to that. So.
You have had a successful coaching tree. Share with us how you guide and mentor your assistant coaches.
Well, we've been very, very fortunate to have, first of all, we've always had a great team of people, and they've been very supportive. Like, whether it was when I was a head coach at Michigan State, LSU, we changed a lot of things at LSU, and we had a great team. We built an academic center there. We created a lot of things that they didn't have to create better opportunities for people, but everybody was committed to it. The administration was committed to it, the athletic department was committed to it, everybody that worked there was committed to it. And I've been very fortunate now at Alabama that what we believe in and what we do are the things that you need to have as resources from your team of people, your administration and all that, to be able to have a chance to be successful. So we've always had those things, and we've always had really good people as coaches to be on our staff. We have a ton of guys that are very successful, as head coaches now and are out there professionally. And look, I just try to provide leadership and direction and the fundamental things that I think we need to do to have a chance to be successful, whether it's what the off-season program is, and we're still doing the same off-season program, Cal, we did at LSU, which you hated then and the players hated now. We're still doing it because it works. It works. All right, so that's just one thing that they learn. All right, if it's the academic support program that we have, culture of accountability when it comes to school. Player cannot miss class, miss tutoring sessions, because we have a point system. Same point system Cal had when he was at LSU. It works. All right, so if they get so many points, I won't let them practice the play. And they have to make things up. So I'm not a punishment guy, but no different than my kids at home. If you're going to punish someone, you take something away that's going to change their behavior. Otherwise, it's not worth doing. So all our guys want to play. So when I say you can't practice to play, they go to class. And we're just trying to develop the right habits. So regardless of which one of these philosophical things that we do, which I learned from somebody else. There's not one thing that I didn't learn from Don James, George Perlis, Earl Bruce, and sometimes you learn things not to do. I coached for Jerry Glanville at the Houston Oilers, and we used to leave tickets for dead people. And I said, well, that's not something I want to do. Does everybody remember D.B. Cooper? The guy that in Seattle, robbed the bank or something. I don't remember what he did. $250,000, got in an airplane. I guess the airplane crashed, but they never found him or the money. Anyway, so when I'm at the Houston Oilers, we're playing in Seattle. Jerry leaves 4 tickets at will call for D.B. Cooper. But the funny thing was there were 2 FBI agents there sitting there and came pick them up. So you learn some things not to do. But you have a philosophy. And the coaches buy into the philosophy. They understand the importance of buying into the philosophy. They understand the importance of character, ability to communicate. There's no substitute for knowledge, and everybody's got to fit in together as a group. So these things that we've sort of made our program through the years that have been successful, they learn, they carry out, they commit to, and then when they get an opportunity, they kind of do the same thing. So, and I'm very proud of what some of those guys have been able to accomplish.
What has been, as a head football coach or an assistant coach, what has been a deciding factor in your decision to make a move to another institution?
Well, I'm all done making moves. I think that you asked me before what has changed. I think there was a time when I had all these goals and aspirations of what I thought made you be successful. And it was like the ultimate goal was, could you be a head coach in the NFL? Could you be a head coach in college? And when I was an assistant coach. But now, you know, you find out a lot about yourself when you do things. And maybe you learn these things by experience. So maybe I ended up here. I would have never ended up here if I didn't have all the experiences that I had before. Like when I went to the Miami Dolphins to be the head coach and I left LSU, I thought that was the ultimate thing that I always wanted to do as coach. But I found out when I was there that I learned a lot about myself. You know, the thing that I loved about college coaching was helping the players be more successful as people, as students, and as football players. I mean, that's what I love. You know, whether it was talking to them, the counseling you gave them, how you motivated them, how you led them, not just in football, but as people, character development, making good choices and decisions, how to be successful, how to be more successful in life. That was our goal when I was in college. A player is going to be more successful in life for having been involved in the pro. That was sort of our goal. And we try to set up programs that were going to help them do that. Well, I went to the pro ball. It's the difference between fighting for your country and being a mercenary. Right? So, and there's nothing wrong with pro ball. That's great. I mean, guys make a lot of money. It's what it is. It's a players' league. That's what it's all about. It's for entertainment, and that's good. And a lot of people are very excited about that. But as a coach, there wasn't the same self-gratification for me in terms of everything was just about winning the game. And so managing the salary cap. It was a business-oriented type of, and I had to take players that I really, really respected, liked, thought they were better than somebody else, and because of the salary cap or whatever, had to cut them and keep somebody else. And I just said, this is not me. Right? And then everybody's probably heard the story. Drew Brees was really coming to Miami. We had the deal done. Our doctors failed him on the physical. And said he wouldn't be able to play. And he made 9 Pro Bowls and 2 and 5. And won a Super Bowl in New Orleans. Right? And I just said, my fate is based on this. And so I wanted to go back to college. And since I got back to college, I've never wanted to go anyplace else. And Miss Terry doesn't want to go anyplace else because we learned what our calling was. You know, now, Coach Robinson and some of the coaches, Joe Paterno, and they knew what their calling was. They didn't have to go learn it like I did. They knew. They stayed here for 57 years. Stayed here for 57 years. Had a chance to go in pro ball, had a chance to do all that, and he didn't do it because he knew what he wanted to do. I wasn't smart enough to do that. I had to go learn the hard way and move my family and all that to figure it out. But at least in the end, we were able to do it.
Do you mind me calling you Nicholas?
I respond to a lot worse than that.
What is success to Nick Saban?
Success? You know, I think, I don't know. I think success is always under construction. The road to success is always under construction. I don't think you know, success is not a continuum. It's momentary. And I think if you kind of understand that, whatever the goal is, whatever you want to try to accomplish, whether it's individually, as a team, or whatever, as soon as you get it done, you better know that's it. Because there are new challenges. The rest of your life is in the future, so you better focus on what's happening in the future. And, you know, that's kind of, I mean, I guess consistency and performance to me would define success, because that means that you are able to continue to have success regardless of what the circumstances are. But it's much more difficult for people to deal with being successful than it is failure. And you know, I think, you know, why do the mighty fall? Complacency. And I mentioned a word earlier that I actually related to Coach Robinson in his speech was humility. You know, when you lose your humility, and I actually hate to admit this, but I think it happened to our team last year at the end of the season. You sort of create a blatant disregard for doing what's right. You don't think it applies to you. You don't have to practice, you don't have to pay attention to detail, you don't have to prepare, you don't have to do things the way you've always done them so that you had success. So now you lose your humility and you just think you're going to show up and win the game, and you get exposed because over time you develop bad habits. And I thought our team really made great progress last year until the LSU game. And then from that time on, we started going in the other direction. It was harder to get everybody to practice. It was harder to get guys to pay attention to detail and prepare the right way. A lot of distractions. People, you know, got a lot of external factors affecting what they're going to do next year. Coaches, players alike. So it was a very, very difficult thing to try to manage, and we ultimately played really bad and very poorly against a very good team, you know, in the last game. But we didn't really play that great against Oklahoma either. We just won. We didn't really play that great against Georgia either, and we just won. And nobody's willing to change when you win. Just like the Bluegrass Miracle when I was at LSU. Nobody remembers. I mean, we got the lining kicked out of our britches the next week when we played Alabama because we won. We played terrible at Kentucky, and we won the game on a 75-yard pass, tipped ball, Devery Henderson catches it, and we win the game. They already threw Gatorade on the other coach. All right, so I go into the locker room after the game, everybody's great. I'm really, really upset by the way we play. So I'm trying to tell everybody, look guys, we got to focus on improvement. This wasn't one of our best games. There's a lot of things we need to work on. If we'd have lost, they would have all jumped right on board. But the fact that we won and played, which I think is the worst thing you can do, is play poorly and win. Because nobody wants to respond, you know, to doing things the right way. Because, again, outcomes are distractions. If I have a vision to be the best player I can be, does it matter whether we won or lost? Does it matter what the scoreboard says? Do I play one way when I play against a good guy and another way when I play against a bad guy? Do I play one way when we're ahead by 14 and another way when we're behind by 14? Not if your goal is to be the best player you can be. If your goal is just to win the game, then all that stuff matters. So, you know, it takes a lot of strong competitive character and will and perseverance, ability to overcome adversity, but also a pride in performance that keeps you being able to be successful and sustain doing the things that you need to do to be successful.
Well, Coach, I thank you so much, you know, for this time. What I'm getting from all of this is the most important thing is the how. From everything that you've answered, the how in which you do things. So thank you guys so much. Could you guys please give Coach Saban a hand? Thank you very much.
I have a couple of minutes. If you're okay with it, we'll take maybe 2 questions.
I'm
Time is going by. So we've got time for maybe 2 questions.
Yes.
Let's take them.
How good is your quarterback?
From a quarterback?
Can we get you to introduce yourself first, please?
My name is Bert Jones.
Good seeing you. I used to call him all the time and try to get him to help us recruit when I was at LSU. So, Tua is a very competitive guy. He's very instinctive. He's got great hands. He's very accurate. He can make really quick decisions and judgments on where to go with the ball. He reads defenses very well. But I think that when it comes to some of the game management type things, like situations in games, when do you need to throw the ball away? You know, just like in the national championship game, when we went in overtime, he takes a sack on first down, all right, and then it's 2nd and 25, and he throws a touchdown pass. So when I confront him after the game and I say, Tua, you know, we've been over this situation 100 times. You can't take a sack when we're down by 3 and we're in overtime in the red zone. And he says, Coach, I just needed more room to throw the ball. I mean, that's sort of how he looks at the game sometimes, rather than situations and being smart about how do you manage situations. And, you know, I think the success that he had last year, one of the things that we need to try to make sure that he doesn't start trying to force too many balls, because he went through 7 or 8 games and never threw 1 interception, and he threw about 6 or 7 at the end. Now, we're playing against better teams. I mean, our road to the championship game was LSU, Mississippi State, Auburn, Georgia, Oklahoma.
Hello.
I mean, Clemson didn't necessarily have to do that, all right? But we were playing against better teams, all right, and the defenses were better, and I think because of the success that we were having, you know, he was trying to make plays rather than just letting the plays come to him and taking what the defense did, which he did a great job of for the first 7 or 8 games of the season. So we definitely want him to get back to that and to do a little better job of managing situations in the game, you know, a little bit better. Like taking a sack in 2 minutes. I mean, we never had to really go 2 minutes, but things like that, you know, he's always trying to make a play, so he doesn't put the situation ahead of the play sometimes. But we just want to try to keep him healthy.
All right. One more question, one quick question. I saw this gentleman.
Coach, I've been the team doctor here at Grambling for 30 years. Had the opportunity to work with Coach Rob for 10 years, and they've had 5 or 6 different regimes since then. I've seen coaches that came in and disregarded the legacy of Coach Rob. And of course, as we see now, his legacy is appreciated, and he's the foundation of what we're doing now. How did you approach the legacy of Coach Bryant?
Well, you know, I think Coach Bryant, I've always honored, you know, everything that Coach Bryant ever did. I mean, the University of Alabama is what it is because of Bear Bryant. There's no doubt. I mean, the whole philosophy at the school, you know, remains what it is because of what Coach Bryant did there. The cooperation that we get in the university community is there because the people there, respect what Coach Bryant did to make the University of Alabama sort of create, just like Grambling. I mean, you can go anywhere in the country and people know what Grambling is. Well, they know Grambling because of Coach Robinson. And everybody knows Alabama. Like the Crimson Tide is one of the 5 most recognized names in sports in the United States. It's because of Coach Bryant. You know, Julio Jones came back for the first 2 days I was doing my hip rehab. He came back, and Dr. Jones was present with me, helping me do my rehab. And, you know, he says to me, he says, Coach, do you realize that I've played now in all 32 NFL stadiums? And not one time have I ever came out of the tunnel and somebody doesn't yell Roll Tide, no matter where we play. So, do I embrace the legacy of Bear Bryant and what he's done? And there are hundreds of players, just like I'm sure there are hundreds of players here at Grambling, that come back in the A club or whatever it is, I mean, that's all they talk about, is things that they learned, lessons that, and how their association with Coach Bryant and being a football player at the University of Alabama changed their life, created opportunities for them, change their attitude and character about how they look at things. So I probably respect and embrace what he did, and would say that anytime you have a legend and a legacy that was left like that, it would be very foolish not to embrace it. We have this young man, I like for young guys to be able to ask questions. You have a question? Yes, sir, I saw you put your hand up.
Yes, sir.
My name is David Mitchell from Neville High School, all district tight end. The championship game against Clemson, what do you think the strengths and weaknesses of your team were?
Well, you know, sometimes you have a really good feeling about where your team is, and sometimes not. And I knew, being around the Clemson players, that since we'd beaten them the year before in the playoff, you know, they were really, really zeroed in and focused on this game. And I felt like our players were just too casual, you know, in their approach to the game. I thought their approach to the game against Oklahoma was pretty good. So I was very, very concerned, because I had a tremendous amount of respect for Clemson's quarterback, who's a great player. They got two really, really good wide receivers that were tough matchups for us. And the way we play, that's really important, that our corners can cover their wideouts. And, you know, Diggs probably would have done a lot better if he hadn't got hurt, because he's the best corner we had. So, and I felt like on offense, you know, we never really ever solidified things, because they do a bunch of stuff on defense. There are multiple, lots of pressures. I thought our players didn't have it. They didn't have it all down. And then when we got in the game, you know, we have the ball on the 1 yard line twice, and, you know, second and 1 at the 1, we get a penalty when the score is 14-13. I think that was probably, guy jumped offside, undisciplined type penalty. 14-13, we're behind. All right, this was like in the second quarter. But that play had more to do with the outcome of that game than anything. Because we went back 5 yards, we ended up kicking a field goal, and then, you know, they ended up scoring on the next drive. But the whole momentum of the game turned around on the right tackle picking his hand up before the snap. Very small thing. And, you know, we just didn't play very well, and it's all my responsibility, but I didn't have a good feeling about it, and just didn't work out like we wanted. But I was proud of the fact that our team won 14 games last year. There was only 2 teams, that us and Clemson were the only teams that did that. They had persevered a lot to get there. But we just didn't finish like we wanted. And I think that, you know, there's probably 3 things that having a very disciplined team, have players that take ownership and accountability for what they're supposed to do, and being a team. You know, those 3 things are the most important things to me as a coach. And I just didn't think we did that very well in that particular game. Some of it went back to humility, which I talked about before. Can I just say that this has been very enjoyable for me? I would have probably been somewhere on the phone talking to a recruit if I wouldn't have been here. It's great to be back in Louisiana. It's great to be back in Ruston. We've had a lot of great players on our team from Louisiana, LSU, as well as, you know, now at Alabama. And we're very, very proud that of what we've been able to accomplish for the young people in our program, not for how many games that we won. And I'll bet you if you could ask Coach Robinson, he would say exactly the same thing. You know, I'm proud of what we've been able to accomplish for the players that played in our program. And I think that's what it's all about, and that's why I'm so happy to be here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Coach. you know, it's very special to have him here, considering the fact that he just had a hip surgery. And so thank you for coming. I asked him on the way here whether or not he engaged in a lot of speaking engagements, and he said not really, but those that are very special to me, and this is a very special time for him. So let's give him another round of applause. He also came with two other officials from Alabama, University of Alabama, Bill Ponder, who's the Director of Football Operations, and as well as, Ellis Ponder, where's Ellis Ponder? As well as Josh Maxson, who is the Assistant Athletic Director. Let's give them a round of applause. I want to thank all of you for coming. Without your support, this would not have happened because things cannot happen without our sponsors. I want to give a special thank you to Hunt Guillot and Associates, as well as Hunt Forest Products. When Coach Ellis and I was talking about this event, and Sherry Kirkland, who's the granddaughter of Coach Robinson, put this together. So let's give her a round of applause. So we're talking about it, we mentioned, you know, it's going to be hard to get someone here to be a title sponsor because this is LSU territory. And I thought about Jack Hunt, who played football at Ruston High and LSU for Coach, and his father. Is Jack Hunt here? Jack's not here. He's not. Well, his father is Trot Hunt, who owns Hunt Guillot Associates, along with Mr. Guillot, who's president. So if you're a member of both organizations, please come forward so we can take a picture with you and Coach. They donated $10,000 to this, and I really appreciate it. Hunt Guillot Associates and Hunt Forest Products. Let's give our sponsors a big round of applause. Real quick, I want to give a special thank you to our president, Rick Gallo. Thank you. You can hold your applause until the end because I have quite a few thank yous here. We have University of Louisiana Board of Supervisors member Liz Pierre is present. Also Hall of Fame NBA player Willis Reed, Mayor Ed Jones from Grambling, the Union Parish Sheriff Dusty Gates, Mayor Stein Bachman from Farmerville, and other dignitaries, Mayor Reggie Skanes from Downsville, and other dignitaries from Union Parish, Johnny Dollar, Glenn Ramsey, Judy Arger, Judy Reed, Bobby and Jane Green, Pastor Kurt Arger. We also have Tech football coach, I think he was here earlier, Skip Holtz, Assistant District Attorney Kawana Drake, Assistant District Attorney Wilbert Pryor from Freeport, Hall of Fame football coach and my mentor, Wilbert Ellis. We have a representative of Dak Prescott here, by the way, Rick Roberts and Walter Jones. Head football coach from West Monroe, which is a pipeline for LSU and Alabama, Jerry Arledge. Ruston City Mayor James Austin on behalf of Ronnie Walker. And also District Attorney Danny Newell from 2nd Judicial District. And also we have other sponsors who have sponsored and donated to us for the whole series of this year. That is Origin Bank, First Guarantee Bank, Adam Johnson from Shreveport is present, and Jeff Parker from Origin Bank, First National Bank, Century Next, And I know this family doesn't want to be recognized, but we have to say the Davises. Thank y'all so much for what you do. I really appreciate it. Jim and Steve are over there as well. And a special thank you to the Lincoln Parish Sheriff's Office for escorting us here today. Stephen Williams and his deputies, thank you so much. Grambling State University Police Department for their security. Jim Taylor Ford for their transportation. And I would like to also acknowledge we have 3 candidates for sheriff. Mr. Hermes, Randall Hermes, George Webb, and Stephen Williams. So thank y'all so much. I really appreciate it.
Good afternoon. I'm Eddie Robinson III. Thank you, Coach Saban, for visiting the Eddie Robinson Museum. On February 13th, at the initial Eddie Robinson 100th birthday commemoration, we honored living coaches who worked alongside my grandfather, and we called them legacy keepers because of the unwavering support they showed throughout their careers here at Grambling. They shared passion of grooming young men beyond the sport to prepare them for the game of life. Today, also, we honor you, Coach Saban, as a legacy keeper. Coach Saban, you are one who preserves the Eddie Robinson playbook through your reflection as a consummate professional and an unyielding builder of men. On behalf of the entire Eddie Robinson family and Grambling Tigers past and present, we thank you for being here during this commemoration of our grandfather's legacy. Thank you.
And one final order of business before we depart. Coach Fobbs. Could we get the football staff here? Mike Armstrong, George. You're out. Okay.
Coach, I want to give you just a token from our athletic department. First, I want to let you know that Kyle has become a hell of a softball coach in his retirement. But I want to give this to you, Coach, just a token of appreciation for all that you've done. We feel that you have been the #1 coach in the last 20+ years. And I study you, I look at you on YouTube all the time, and I just want to thank you so much, for coming here. Thank you.
Thank you again for coming. We appreciate you, and that's it. Please enjoy a little bit of lunch before you leave. And again, thank you for coming.
I was trying to be discreet.
Oh, did he? I need a check. That's too much footage on me. I need a check. That's too much footage. I'm still waiting for the call me.